Hey friends! I'm back with another update. I am 18 weeks pregnant today, and that is so wild. I don't know why for the last like 2 or 3 weeks I've had week 18 built up in my head as like this big milestone, and so it's very straight. First off, I'm not sure why. I think it might be because a few weeks ago I read that at week 18 she can officially hear us now, or hear me anyways. I don't know how long it takes for her to hear sounds from outside, but she can officially hear me now, which is really exciting. So maybe that's why I had that date like built up in my head, but now it's here and it's like, whoa, that's pretty nuts. Like, we're almost halfway. It's feeling more and more real. I can't imagine what it's gonna feel like when I'm actually halfway. But yeah, it's just out of control how fast it feels everything's going now. Day to day is slow, but then I check in every week and I realize, man, I feel like I just made one of these. So it really feels like, yeah, in the grand scope of things, this is just flying by. The lighting is extra trash today because it's a super gloomy day outside, so I have all of the indoor lights on. The nice thing is that as of yesterday, we're experiencing our first cold front of the year. I don't know how long it's gonna last, and it's really not a cold front, it's just a lot breezier outside than typical, but I'll take it. So in this past week, we've got some good news and we've got some not so good news. And even though the good news comes later in the week, I suppose, and I typically like to do these updates chronologically just so that I don't forget anything, I have everything written down this week. So I think I would rather start with the good news. Good news is we had our anatomy scan yesterday and everything's great. The little girl is hilarious. So basically the anatomy scan, they do an abdominal ultrasound, which is the typical thing that you expect at this stage. And they're measuring baby's head, features of baby's face. They're checking out the spine. They're looking at all of the different extremities and making sure that all of the bones are forming correctly, etc. And then, I guess this part is optional because she actually told me, like, and if you want to do this or if you consent to doing this, which, come to think of it now, is a very, like, trauma-informed place to come from, and I really appreciate that. But the point is, they framed it, at least at my practice, in a way where I could have just refused it if I wanted to, but it feels like it's part of like the complete scans, and I was fine with it, so I said yes, of course, let's do that. They also do a transvaginal ultrasound, so the wand is inside, which is typically how they do very early scans when you're pregnant. And the purpose of this scan is to measure the cervix, make sure the cervix is a good length, make sure the cervix is closed. And they also use this to check where your placenta is, because it's important to know if the placenta is covering the birth canal. If it is, then you know that you literally cannot try for a vaginal birth. You need to do a C-section because there's something literally impeding the baby going through the birth canal. And it's possible that as the uterus expands, that might shift position. But them knowing that means that now they know they need to monitor that. And if it doesn't change position, then you know that you must schedule a C-section or eventually have a C-section when you go into labor, because there's just not a feasible way for the baby to come out. So the good news is also that my cervix is perfect and my placenta is precisely exactly where it needs to be for me to be able to attempt a vaginal birth. So that's very exciting news. I wanted to try to show you guys this one picture that's just so perfect. That's her foot. You guys can see right here is her little leg, and there's her little foot right there. How beautiful is that tiny little foot? They confirmed that it is in fact a girl, which we knew that because we've done 2 blood tests at this point telling us that it is a female, but they were able to physically see as well that it is in fact a girl. Something else that happened at the scan is we couldn't get childcare for Big Bro, so he actually came with us and he got to witness baby sister for the first time, like, you know, in real life, I guess, because we've shown him pictures obviously and we talk about her all the time, but he hadn't been to a scan, he hadn't seen her move yet, and so he got to see that yesterday, and that was very cool. I did ask the ultrasound tech before I left, so like, are the chambers of her heart okay? Like, because these are all things that they're supposed to measure as well. And she told me, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're not even 18 weeks. I'm not sure why they scheduled you this early. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because typically the anatomy scan is done at about 20 weeks. She said, I really think you should come back because it seems like 2 weeks really shouldn't make that big of a difference, but it will make a big difference, and I'll be able to see a lot more in a couple of weeks. And then I'll be able to do like all the detailed stuff. So in essence, it was kind of a waste of time to do it yesterday, because regardless whether I come back in 2 weeks or if I would have just waited and done it in 2 weeks, they would have been able to do all of the measurements all at once. And so it's good for me, peace of mind, etc. And obviously they scheduled it then because I guess they figured that they'd be able to do it all at once. But I felt it was too early. I figured it would be too early. So I am going to have to go back and repeat it. I'm sure it's not going to be as long this time because they already have so many measurements that they were able to get this first go around. But the things that they weren't able to do, like for example, the heart chambers, they're going to have to do then. So I already have that scheduled. That's happening. As far as the bad news, and it's, I mean, again, in the grand scope of things, I'm fine, the baby's fine, we're fine, thank goodness. So it's nothing that terrible, but I will say I found this out on my birthday, and it very much put a damper on my birthday. I'm not gonna say it ruined my birthday, because enough lovely things happened on my birthday that I was able to eventually kind of put it out of my mind and just enjoy the day. But it severely, severely put a damper on my birthday. I was called by my OB's office and told that they were going to have to reschedule my 39 and 40 week appointments at the office because my doctor, the one that we love, the one that assured me from the beginning, we don't even rotate at this practice. I'm your doctor. I'll be your doctor from now until the day you deliver. I'll be the one delivering your doctor. That's just how it works around here. Which is a big deal for me because I did have a traumatic birth experience with my son for a number of reasons. One of which being that I was at a practice that rotated doctors and I got to meet all the doctors and I liked all of them to an extent. But there was this one doctor that I thought to myself, I even said out loud to my husband, I'm sure multiple times, if she's the one that ends up delivering our son, I'm going to have a problem because of all the doctors here, she feels to me like the most inept, honestly. If we're being frank, she seemed really inexperienced. She always had a really hard time answering my questions that I thought were very simple questions. I just had zero confidence in this person. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, when I go into labor, she's the one on call and she was the one that ended up delivering my son. So the fact that I knew that that was not going to happen, that I was not going to be surprised by a random doctor with this pregnancy was a very, very big deal to me. She's not going to be in town those weeks, which means it's a like very big possibility, unless baby comes early, very early, couple weeks early, or baby comes at least a week late. My doctor's not going to be my doctor. My doctor's not going to be in town to deliver my baby. And that really, really upset me when they told me that, because they just called me to tell me we have to reschedule those appointments. Why? Oh, because she's not going to be here. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that she's not going to be here on my due date? That's what you're saying to me. You're explaining to me right now that my doctor will not be available to deliver me. That's the long and short of what you're calling me about right now. And the nurse was almost like, she seemed caught off guard, like it hadn't occurred to her that, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess if she's not going to be here for week 39 and week 40, then yeah, it's very likely she won't be here when you give birth. Like, wow, yeah, that didn't occur to you. It's the first thing that occurred to me. So I went ahead and rescheduled those appointments because what am I going to do? But I was very, very upset. I'm still very, very upset. And obviously I'm going to bring that up to the doctor next time I see her. Like, what's your plan now? Because I can't imagine, like my thoughts were, is it a medical thing? I would imagine not, because I feel like something medical must be more urgent. Why would you wait for 6 months from now to schedule it? So let's assume it's not a medical thing. Is it a vacation? Okay, well then you're a dick, because why would you take me as a patient and then go on vacation that week? Or why would you not schedule your vacation and say, don't give me any patients that are due around these couple of weeks because I want to go on vacation? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just crap planning on your part, and it's a dick move. So that made me really mad when I started thinking about it that way. And if it's like a conference or something, really, like, way to put your patients last. So it's like, either way, I feel like no matter what's going on, it's a dick move on my doctor's part, and I'm already starting to feel very differently about my doctor, the fact that she's even putting me in this position. And is that a selfish thing to think about? Maybe. But it's my birth experience. She assured me that this was not going to happen, and that's one of the reasons why we went with this practice and with this doctor. And she knows that I'm coming from a place of, like, I've had a traumatic birth and I'm trying really hard to not experience that again. And then this is happening. So I'm not saying that she made this decision to take that time off with me in mind specifically to be like, haha, I'm gonna ruin her. I know that that's not the case. But I don't think I can be blamed for taking this pretty freaking hard. So I'm not gonna see her for at least, I think it's like 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks potentially. So I'll have to bring it up with her and ask her, like, so then what's the plan? Since you're not gonna be here, what's the plan? What are we doing? Am I gonna have to meet other doctors in the practice then? What's the plan? Because we had a plan. It was a pretty good plan, I thought. And now you've gone and thrown that out the window. So you tell me now, what's the alternative? So anyways, those are definitely the highlights and lowlights of the week. The highlight, of course, being getting to see little girl wiggling around like crazy. The ultrasound tech was cracking up at how fast she was and how she had to keep chasing her around. And then when we were doing the transvaginal ultrasound, she's obviously trying to see my cervix, and she would just kind of go and poke her head into the frame. So she'd have to like wiggle my belly to try to get the baby to move so that she could get the measurement she needed. So the baby would move, she'd get the measurement, and then suddenly the baby would and peek in again, and it was just hilarious. So she's already got a pretty big personality, which I'm very excited about. And then of course the whole thing with the doctor, which I don't know. I mean, there has to be a resolution, right? Obviously, somebody is going to deliver this baby. I'm just not sure what the heck it's going to be, or if I'm going to be happy or satisfied with it. But it is what it is. There's nothing really that I can do about the fact that my doctor essentially lied about being able to trust her to be here to deliver my baby. It just is what it is. So let's get into the weekly happenings, shall we? Starting with the bump. There it is. In all of its glory, feeling very pregnant these days. Something else that's going on with me these days, a couple things. First off, heartburn. So that's a thing that's happening now. And it's kind of my bad to a degree because I'm very much continuing to eat as I've always eaten, meaning I'm having my medium spicy taco sauce on my scrambled eggs every morning. I'm just eating the stuff that I like. And the stuff that I like, I guess, typically doesn't bother me, but while pregnant, gives me heartburn. And it's that kind of heartburn where, like, you feel the acid in your throat. Very uncomfortable. I've not learned my lesson yet. Perhaps eventually I will, but so far, that's something that I'm dealing with now. I've also been really tired this week, but I think it's just because our sleep schedules have been a little bit funky. Kiddo's been waking up really early. He's also been going to bed early, but I'm not that guy. Even if he goes to bed early, I just can't turn my brain off like that. So I'm going to bed as late as I ever have, but having to wake up early every morning. So hopefully I'll eventually adjust because that is all on me, but it's kind of running me ragged a little bit right now. Kiddo's decided to sit right next to me now, so I'm trying to make sure that you guys can't see the pictures behind me, but you also can't see him, so I'm sorry for the weird angle. Other things that I'm experiencing this week. Little girl. I've been feeling her on and off, subtle little wiggles and swoops here and there since about week 15. But this week, in this last week, she's woken me up overnight of how hard she's wiggling around. And I'm feeling her very, very frequently. And when I feel her, it's for long stretches of time, just wiggles, 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 wiggles. She's also really into waking me up at 3 a.m. with like heavy thuds. So that's very fun. Obviously, I'm being a little bit sarcastic because nobody wants to be woken up. But if I have to choose a way to get woken up in the middle of the night, this is a very fun way to do that. So really can't complain too much. And then one last thing that I'm going through that I've noticed in the last like handful of days is I've mentioned 1,000 times on the channel that I have tendonitis in both my ankles, and for years that caused severe pain literally whenever I walked, whenever I stood up after being seated for too long. It's the kind of pain where like you're walking and suddenly your ankles just give out on you and you like fall to the floor. It sucks. It's not a fun way to live. And I've been dealing with this condition literally for years. And in the last, I'd say maybe 2 years, because I've been exercising so much, my theory is that I've strengthened the tendons to the point that I haven't had symptoms in well over a year, almost 2 years. And that's obviously been great. I almost forgot what it was like to be chronically in pain day after day, even at nighttime, like just constant pain, one level of pain or another, but constantly being in pain. I haven't experienced that in a couple of years, and it was lovely. But lately, in the last, let's say 3 or 4 days, kiddo's back. I'm realizing that particularly on the left side, on my left ankle, I'm getting this like really gnarly shooting pain just from walking around. Like I'm not doing anything crazy, I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary, just walking, and suddenly my foot, my ankle will hurt so bad that I can't even stand it. And it so happens I was looking on the app and it was saying that you develop like I think it's a hormone maybe, that they call relaxin. The point of this hormone or whatever it is to help your uterus expand, or your ligaments expand without hurting or tearing. So everything just kind of relaxes, and that's a reason why a lot of pregnant women develop sciatica, is because you've got all this extra weight now on your body, especially in your belly and your hips, etc., and your ligaments are no longer firm enough or strong enough to hold up that weight. So it starts to relax everything, for better or worse, right? It so happens that this is about the time of your pregnancy where all that starts to kick in, and so I'm wondering if the relaxin, because it doesn't discriminate, it doesn't just work on your round ligaments, on your uterus, etc. It's all over your system. So I'm wondering if that's kind of like undone the strengthening that I've done to my tendons, and now my tendons are feeling loosey-goosey again, and maybe that's why they're hurting. I'm not saying that every pregnant person is going to experience this, but remember, I came into this already with a condition, and I feel like the condition is being exacerbated by this relaxin thing. I can't imagine what else it could be, because I've not done anything out of the ordinary. So I don't think I've like injured myself or anything, and that's why I'm feeling this. I think that it's the only thing that makes sense to me is that the tendons are relaxing because of the relaxin, and it's causing this situation. And I feel like I need to start wrapping this up because little guy's being so silly and not wanting me to record anymore. So let me show you guys real fast. This week, baby girl is as big as Miko's biscuit. Great. She's also as big as a stapler, as big as a disposable camera, which I've learned are all the rage again right now. And lastly, she's as big as a cucumber. She's learning to yawn, and soon she'll be hiccuping as well, which is exciting because one of the things that I remember most about being pregnant with this guy is that he hiccuped a lot and I constantly felt it. So I'm wondering if little sister will be the same way. Her nervous system is maturing quickly, which is obviously very important. And as I mentioned earlier, baby's hearing is growing more acute, and she can finally fully hear you this week. Meaning you could both be listening to each other hiccup. That's really cute. And the last thing that the app is talking about this week is the pregnancy hormone relaxin. Relaxing all of your ligaments, including those that attach your pelvic bones to your spine, and loosening joints. And it also talks about heartburn, which again, I didn't need the app to tell me about either of those. I'm very much experiencing those in full force. So I think I'm definitely going to cut it right now while I'm still able to. I don't know how long the video is going to end up being, but I've been recording for like a half hour, and I'm sure that most of it is going to end up getting cut because it's all like kiddo just running into the shot. So thank you guys for being here. In the next week, I don't have any appointments. But whatever else happens, however I'm feeling, how baby girl's growing, etc., I will let you guys know about it next week for week 19. Oh, by the way, you know how I told you guys that we had her name picked out? My husband changed his mind again. So I've already told him, like, that's it. We're not committing to any names until she's here, because I had already bought her a personalized onesie. And now that personalized onesie is going to just end up being a keepsake, because right now that's not her name anymore. So, yeah. Anyways, that's week 18. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk again really, really soon. Bye.